The laughing queen of Zelora, the great hall of Zelora, was filled with noise, laughter, music, and alien voices. The air smelled of sweet wine and strange spices. The queen of Zelora, Jeria, sat on her high throne made of shining black stone. Her golden eyes looked down at the human standing before her. He was tall for a human with short dark hair and a strong jaw. His clothes were torn. His hands were chained. Bruises covered his face. His name was Riven, commander of Earth's defense unit, or at least he used to be. "Bring the human closer," Queen Jeria said with a smile. Her voice was cold and smooth like glass. Two alien guards pushed Riven forward. He didn't fight. He didn't speak. He only stared at the queen. The crowd laughed. Some threw food at him. One alien shouted, "Look at the weak Earth creature." "Weak?" Jeria laughed, standing up. She walked slowly toward Riven. Her dress shimmered like water, and her sharp claws clicked on the floor. "This is what your planet calls a warrior?" Still, Riven said nothing. His lips were tight. His eyes followed every movement she made. "You killed 6 of my best soldiers before we captured you," she said, circling him. "But now look at you. You are nothing." She raised her hand and slapped him. The sound echoed through the hall. The crowd roared with laughter. Riven's head turned from the hit, but he didn't fall. Blood ran from his lip, but he didn't wipe it. He just looked at her, calm and quiet. There was no fear in his eyes. "Queen," Jeria frowned. She was expecting a scream, or at least anger. Instead, she saw something that made her heart beat faster. Silence. Cold, deep silence. The kind that hides danger. "Put him in the lower cells," she ordered. "Let him rot with the others." The guards began to pull him away. But just before leaving the hall, Riven turned his head slightly. His voice was low and rough. "You made a mistake." The hall went silent. Even the queen paused. "What did you say?" she asked, walking closer. Riven raised his eyes, meeting hers without blinking. "You should have killed me when you had the chance." The queen stared at him. The crowd waited. Then she laughed again. "Take him away," she said. "He's trying to act brave." But her smile was thinner now. As Riven was dragged through the halls of the alien palace, he looked at everything. The guards, the cameras, the lights. He counted steps. He remembered faces. Every breath he took, every second he passed, was a step closer to something. Not escape? Not yet. Revenge. Deep below the palace, the cells were cold and dark. Alien prisoners from many planets were locked, in cages. They looked at Riven as the guards threw him into a corner cell. Some whispered. Others turned away. Riven sat quietly. He closed his eyes, but not to sleep. He was thinking. Planning. He remembered the day Earth fell. The sky full of ships, the screaming, the orders, the battle. The moment he watched his squad get torn apart. The last words of his captain. The sound of his own scream as they took him. And then, silence. He opened his eyes. A small light blinked above the door of his cell. A camera. He looked at it and smiled just a little. The queen thought she had won, but she didn't know what he had hidden under his skin. Chains break, blood spills. The lower prison of Zelora was a place forgotten by light. Cold metal walls dripped with moisture. Electric cables hummed above, their sparks the only source of warmth. The smell of old blood and rust was thick in the air. In cell number 9, the human warrior sat motionless. Riven hadn't spoken in hours. He hadn't moved since he was thrown inside. To the guards watching on the screens, he looked broken. But Riven wasn't resting. He was waiting. His eyes were half closed, but his mind was sharp. He had counted every guard shift, timed every light, flicker, memorized the beeps of the hallway scanners, and most importantly, he had felt the weakness in the metal cuffs around his wrists. Not now. Not yet. But soon. A loud metallic sound echoed across the hallway. A power surge. Just like every night, for 9.3 seconds, the palace systems reset. Lights would flicker. Force fields would drop. Cameras would restart. 9 seconds. That was all he needed. His eyes opened. The guards were laughing just outside his cell. "The human still breathing?" one of them said, poking at his cage with an energy rod. The rod buzzed and sparked as it touched the bars. Riven didn't respond. "Maybe Queen Sharia will feed him to the sand beast tomorrow," the other chuckled. Suddenly, the lights flickered. Then, blackness. 9 seconds. Riven moved like lightning. With one brutal twist, he broke the cuffs around his wrists. The sound was sharp and loud, metal against bone. But his arms were free. The bars of his cell buzzed low as the force field dropped for a heartbeat. He slipped through like a shadow. The first guard didn't even scream. Riven's arm wrapped around his throat. A sharp twist. Crack. The second guard turned too late. Riven snatched the energy rod from the ground and slammed it into his chest. The alien flew back, his body shaking from the shock. The lights came back on, but it was too late. 2 bodies. Motionless. Riven looked down at his own hands, now red with alien blood. He didn't feel guilt. He didn't feel joy. He felt focus. He picked up the guard's armor and slipped it over his torn shirt. It didn't fit well, but it would do. He grabbed the keycard and moved. In the hallway, cameras blinked, but he stayed close to the walls using blind spots he had memorized. Every step was fast and silent. Other prisoners watched him pass, their eyes wide. None spoke. In cell 12, a thin old alien with metal scars on his face whispered, "He's real." Riven stopped only once, to open one of the control panels hidden in the wall. His fingers moved fast like a soldier trained in hundreds of escape drills. He rerouted a path to the upper levels. Blocked the guard channels. Now they couldn't lock him in. Riven didn't just want freedom. He wanted her to know. Queen Sharia. She, who laughed as he bled. She who made a crowd cheer at his pain. He reached the stairwell, leading to the war chambers. The walls here were painted with stories of alien victories, of Zalora crushing other worlds. Riven paused at one mural. It showed humans on their knees. He stared at it for a moment, then punched the wall. Cracks formed. The glass shattered. He kept walking. In the control room, alarms began to blink. One guard noticed missing life signals. In the prison, he turned to his captain. "Sir, the human. He's not in his cell." "That's impossible," the captain said. "Check the feed." "We just did. And sir, 2 guards are dead." The captain's skin turned pale. He reached for the alarm button, but a new screen lit up. Someone had hijacked the system. On every screen a single image appeared. Riven's face, blood on his cheek, shadows in his eyes, and then his voice. Calm, cold, controlled. "This is not a message, it's a reminder. You should have killed me when you had the chance." Every screen in the palace flashed white, then black. Total silence. Queen Sharia was in her private chamber when her guards rushed in. "My queen," they shouted. "The human. He escaped." She stood slowly, eyes wide. "How?" "He killed the guards. Hacked the system. And he left a message." Sharia's hands tightened into fists. Her claws scratched her own skin. "Find him. Now. I want his head." Riven was already 2 levels above by the time they started searching. He moved through the dark, like a ghost, but he didn't run. No, he was going to her, step by step, 1 floor at a time. The ghost in the palace of Zalora, had not known fear for over 200 years. Not since the queen took the throne. But tonight, something was wrong. Every hallway echoed too loudly. Every shadow felt too deep. And somewhere inside this fortress of power, a human walked unseen. Riven's boots touched the ground without a sound. His breath was steady. His hands, still marked with blood, gripped a blade stolen from the guard he killed 2 floors below. But the real weapon was his silence. He had spent years in combat, across the moons of Mars, in the asteroid sieges, in the last defense of New Beijing, but never like this. Never alone, never hunted, and never this calm. He moved like a ghost, quick through blind corners, slow through open halls. Cameras turned to static after he passed, doors unlocked and closed without a trace. It was more than training now. It was instinct. In the palace control room, officers were panicking. "He's not showing on any camera feed," one shouted. "That's impossible. No human can hide from our tech." "He's not hiding," another said in a whisper. "He's erasing." Queen Sharia stepped in, her long cloak dragging behind her. Her eyes burned with anger. "What do you mean?" "Erasing. He hacked into the security mainframe, my queen," the officer replied. "He's using our own tech against us. We can't track him." The queen's voice turned sharp. "Then do it the old way. Search every floor, sweep every room, and bring me his body." Meanwhile, Riven was already 6 levels above the dungeon. He passed the Hall of Trophies, where the heads of alien warriors were frozen in crystal. He looked at the center case, a human helmet, cracked and dusty. Under it, the name of an old. Captain Riven stood there for a long second. Then he took out a sharp piece of metal and carved something into the glass. One word: vengeance. The next group of guards to enter that hallway found it silent. Too silent. Then they saw it, symbols drawn on the walls in red. Not letters, not an alien script. It was human. Earth language. "I see you." The guards froze. A sudden noise. Behind them, they turned, nothing. Then a whisper through the vents. Too slow. A scream followed. One guard vanished into the shadows, pulled by an invisible hand. The others ran. One dropped his weapon. His helmet camera recorded his last moments. Blurry footage, a dark shape moving behind him, a flash of a human face, then black. Queen Sharia watched the video replay over and over. "He's sending a message," she said. "He wants us to fear him." An advisor stepped forward nervously. "My queen, it's working." But it wasn't just fear. Riven was looking for something. He had heard rumors of a vault hidden deep in the palace. Inside, stolen tech, forbidden tech, some of it human-made, taken during the fall of Earth. Tech the aliens didn't understand. Tech Riven had helped design. He had to find it and use it. 3 more guards died before sunrise, one found hanging upside down, blood dripping like paint. Another locked inside his own armor, crushed. The third, no one found the body, only his hand. The news spread fast, servants whispered. Alien generals walked in groups now, afraid to be alone. And across the empire, rebel networks began to stir. They heard the rumors. A human had escaped. A human was hunting. A human was winning. Queen Sharia stood alone in her chamber. Her hand rested on the edge of her blade. She couldn't sleep. His eyes haunted her, the way he spoke before being dragged away. "You should have killed me when you had the chance." How could he move so freely? How could one man make her palace and her empire bleed? Then a sound, soft, behind her. She turned fast, claws out, blade raised. But there was nothing. Just her balcony. Open. The cold wind blowing in. But on the floor, a mark, drawn in blood, an earth symbol. She didn't understand it, but she knew what it meant. He had been there, in her room. Riven stood high on the palace roof now, looking down at the world he planned to set on fire. His mission had changed. At first it was escape, then revenge. But now, it was bigger. He wanted them all to see what a single human could do, what Earth really was. Not weak, not broken, dangerous, and they would learn. Because Riven wasn't done. He was just getting started. A warrior's message, darkness no longer hid Riven. He was done hiding. For 3 nights, he had moved like a shadow. Breaking systems, hunting, guards shaking the palace with fear. But now the time for silence was over. Now the galaxy would hear his voice. Now they would remember what it meant to be human. Deep inside the palace, beyond the high security zone, was the communications core, a room guarded by steel lasers and fear. It was said to be unbreakable, but it wasn't made to stop someone like Riven. He crouched behind a wall, watching the door. 2 guards stood outside, elite soldiers with black armor and glowing red eyes. Riven waited. He didn't blink. A small beep in the power grid told him what he needed to know. The security system had a 1.5-second delay every 7 minutes. He smiled. It was enough. The lights above flickered for just a blink. By the time the guards looked up, he was already between them. A flash of steel, a spray of blood. The bodies dropped before either could fire. Riven stepped over them and hacked into the door panel. Inside, the room was full of floating screens, data streams, voice signals from across the Empire. He touched the interface. The system recognized his old access code. They hadn't deleted it. That was their second mistake. The first, leaving him alive. Queen Jiria stood in the throne room barking orders. The panic was spreading. Commanders from nearby worlds were calling for updates. Cities were locking down. "Seal the palace," she shouted. "Find the human and—" But her voice was cut off. Every screen around her turned black, then static, then his face. Riven. His eyes were calm. A thin trail of blood ran from his temple. His hands rested on the console. His voice was cold and clear. "I am Commander Riven of Earth. You said my planet was weak. You called my people dirt. You made me kneel. Now hear this." Across the galaxy, the broadcast echoed. In military ships, in alien schools, in factories where slaves worked, screens that had never shown human faces before, now only showed his. "You think you control us, you think the war is over, but you forgot one thing: we don't break, we fight. And I'm not the only one." In the outer colonies, alien guards shouted and tried to cut the feed. They failed. On a mining moon, a young alien hybrid whispered, "He's real." On a prison ship, a half-dead human lifted his head and smiled. Queen Jiria stared at the screen. "Cut him off!" she screamed. "We can't!" her tech shouted. "He's inside the core. He's controlling everything." Riven's message continued. His eyes burned with purpose. "To all those who serve the Zelleran Empire, look around you. Do you feel safe? Do you feel proud? When your queen laughs over pain? When your chains grow tighter? You were told humans are finished, but look at me. I walked into your strongest prison. I broke your chains. I killed your guards. And now—" He looked directly into the camera. "I'm coming for your queen." The signal cut. Screens went black. But the silence it left behind was louder than war. Back in the throne room, Jiria's claws shook. For the first time, her voice cracked. He declared war on us." Her general stepped forward. "My queen, with respect, he's just one man." "No," Jiria whispered. "He's not just a man anymore, he's a symbol, and symbols are harder to kill than soldiers." In the lower levels, sirens wailed. Dozens of troops rushed into position. Turrets locked into place. Battle droids powered up. The palace was turning into a fortress, but none of it would stop what was coming. Riven moved through the upper vents, watching everything. He had already planned his next steps. He knew how many soldiers were in each corridor. He knew where she would run when scared. He knew how this would end, but something unexpected happened as he crossed into the weapon vault chamber. He heard a sound. A voice. Faint. Female. Not Jiria. Not a soldier. He turned. In a small, sealed glass chamber, a young girl, a human, sat with wires in her arms. Her eyes were hollow, her hair thin. Riven's breath caught. She looked about 15. A lab subject, forgotten, tortured, alone. He moved fast, broke the lock, pulled her free. She stared at him, confused. "Who?" Are you? She whispered. He kneeled beside her. I'm from home, he said, and I'm here to burn this place to the ground. Outside, Jaria gave her final command. Send everything, all units. Don't capture him. Don't play games. Kill him. Riven looked up as the sound of boots and war machines filled the halls. He stood, holding the girl behind him. He now had a mission again. Not just revenge. Not just escape. Rescue. Resistance. Revolution. He turned to the nearest wall and carved a message with his blade. This is just the beginning. Hunted and cornered, the alarms never stopped. Every floor of the Zaloran palace echoed with warning lights and heavy boots. War droids rolled down corridors. Soldiers checked every shadow. Scanners buzzed like angry bees. The human was no longer a prisoner. He was a threat, a symbol, and symbols are dangerous. Riven moved fast, guiding the young girl through the dark tunnels under the palace floor. The girl was weak, barely able to walk. Her name, she said softly, was Lyra. She was taken from Earth when she was just 8. Now she was 15. She didn't remember what grass felt like, or sunlight, or the sound of birds. But she remembered pain. And now she followed the only person who looked at her like she mattered. Riven knew time was short. Queen Jaria had stopped playing. She had sent them. The Shadow Blades. Xalora's elite assassins, trained in silence. Built for speed. No armor. No words. Only death. Even Riven had heard stories about them. And now, they were hunting him. In the war chamber, Jaria watched the map as red dots blinked across the screen. He's heading toward the vault ruins, a general said, beneath Sector 7. Jaria narrowed her eyes. Let him go there, she whispered. He thinks it's a dead zone, but that's where we built the trap. Underground, the walls began to change. Riven's flashlight lit old stone instead, of metal. This wasn't palace tech. This was older, buried, forgotten. Symbols lined the wall. Human symbols, Earth code. He stepped closer, eyes wide. This place, he whispered. It's ours. A secret lab. One of the last human science posts during the war. Hidden beneath the palace. He didn't know it survived, but Jaria did. And now, she had sealed it, with him inside. Metal doors slammed shut behind them. Thick walls dropped. Lights died. Riven turned quickly, pushing Lyra behind cover. The ground trembled. From the shadows they appeared. 6 of them, tall, thin, moving like smoke. Black armor that shimmered. No faces. No words. The Shadow Blades. Riven breathed slow. Stay down, he said to Lyra. What are they? She asked, her voice shaking. Death. He moved first. A flash of steel. A blur of fists. He struck the nearest one hard, enough to shatter bone. But the assassin didn't fall. They didn't scream. They didn't bleed. They kept moving. Riven fought like a storm. Quick, brutal, precise. 2 fell. Then a blade caught his arm. Deep. Blood poured from the wound. He gritted his teeth. Didn't slow down. He stabbed another in the chest, twisted, and kicked back. 4 down. 2 remained. 1 hit him in the back, a crack of ribs. Riven dropped to one knee. The other rushed Lyra. No, not her. Riven's eyes snapped open. Pain gone, he threw a broken spear line straight through the assassin's neck. The last one turned to run. Riven tackled him mid-air. Fists. Elbows. Rage. Silence. Then only breath. Heavy. Shaking. He stood, arm bleeding, face cut, vision blurry. Lyra crawled to him. You're hurt. I've been worse. He leaned against the wall, and that's when he saw it. A console. Dusty. Cracked, but alive. A blinking blue light. Earth tech. He reached for it, plugged in the power cell he stole earlier. The screen lit up. Accessing human. Archive. Hello, Commander Riven. His old military ID still worked. It wasn't just a lab. It was a weapon room, Long-range teleport beacons, adaptive armor, and something else. Something buried in the files. Prototype. Ghost frame suit, status offline, recharge needed. He smiled. Not for long. Above, Jaria stared at the silent screens. We lost contact with the team, her guard said. What do you mean lost? No signal, they're gone. She turned, eyes cold. Get me my personal guard, tell them this ends tonight. Riven strapped on the ghost frame vest. It was damaged but still powerful. It would bend light, hide his body from scans, mask heat, turn him into a ghost, a real one. He handed Lyra a small beacon. When I tell you, press this. It'll bring help. What about you? She asked. He looked down the hallway. I'm the distraction. As Jaria and her guards entered the vault ruins, the lights above flickered, and then they died. The silence returned. A whisper moved through the air. Then, screams. Soldiers were pulled into the dark. Weapons fired blindly. One by one, they fell. Queen. Jaria shouted, "Show yourself!" A voice came from behind her. I already have. She turned but saw only shadows. Riven stepped forward from the dark, bloodied, broken, alive, more than alive, ready. He raised his blade. You wanted war? He said. This is what it feels like. But before the fight could begin, Lyra pressed the beacon. A low hum echoed. Then a light exploded in the sky above. Earth's signal. Someone would come. Soon. Riven just had to survive until then. As soldiers closed, In and Jaria screamed her fury. Riven stood tall, not just as a soldier, not just as a survivor, but as a spark. And behind sparks, fire always comes. The Queen's fall, the palace burned. Smoke climbed the sky like a scream held too long. Soldiers lay in ruins. Fire licked the walls where once banners of Zalora flew proud, and in the heart of it all, he stood, riven, bloody, limping, eyes sharp as a blade. He had come this far, and now there was only her left, Queen Jaria. She waited for him in the throne chamber, standing tall, armored in gold and black, her face calm, but her eyes, they shook. Behind her, guards surrounded the throne. But Riven didn't stop walking. He stepped through the broken gates. His armor was cracked, his blade was chipped, his left arm hung weak at his side. But his will? Unshaken. You killed my best assassins, Jaria said coldly. You've destroyed my palace. Riven didn't answer. He kept walking. Say something, she growled. Speak, human. He finally stopped at the base of the throne and said, low and quiet, You killed my people. You enslaved my kind. You laughed while we screamed. And now, I'm here to silence you. Jaria smiled, but it was thin. Do you really think you can beat me? She asked. You're wounded, alone. Riven raised his blade. I'm never alone. Not anymore. She rushed forward. The final fight began. It was not elegant, not fast, not clean. This was not two fighters showing skill. This was a war in two bodies. Jaria struck with fury. Her plasma blade cracked the air, sending sparks across the floor. Riven dodged left, then right, but her blade caught his side, a sharp burn. He grunted but didn't fall. He moved in close, punched her jaw, then her gut. Then again. Her armor cracked. She roared and slashed. He dropped low, rolled forward, sliced the back of her leg. She screamed. They circled, bleeding, breathing hard. No words now, only pain, only purpose. Then she stopped suddenly. Smiled. You don't know, do you? She whispered. Riven paused, breathing heavy. Don't know what? She stepped back. You think I chose to attack Earth, but I didn't. Someone paid me. Riven's eyes narrowed. What? Jaria laughed. Your planet was a trade deal. Someone sold you out. I just cleaned up. Who? Riven asked. But she didn't answer. Instead, she raised her weapon and charged again. Riven blocked, spun, and stabbed. right through her chest. Silence. Jiria gasped, fell to her knees, blood on her lips. Riven stood over her. "Who sold us out?" he asked again. She smiled one last time. "Someone from your own council." Then her head dropped. Queen Jiria, ruler of the Zaloran Empire, was dead. Riven stood in silence. His blade fell from his hand. The room shook, not from war, but from something deeper. The truth. Someone on Earth gave them up. It wasn't just Jiria. There was more. This wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. Behind him, footsteps echoed. Lyra ran into the room, carrying the beacon. Her face lit with hope when she saw him alive. "You did it," she whispered. Riven turned slowly. "No," he said. "Not yet." He walked to the throne, looked down at it, then turned his back to it. He would not sit on a throne built on blood. Instead, he raised his voice. To the surviving guards, to the servants, to everyone still listening in the palace system. "Your queen is gone, your empire has fallen, I am not your ruler. But from this moment forward, you are free. No more chains, no more masters. The age of fear is over. Now begins the age of choice." No one clapped. No one cheered. They were too stunned. But something changed. A shift. A silence filled with hope. Outside the palace, rebel ships appeared in the sky, answering Lyra's beacon. Earth's resistance was alive. They had heard Riven's broadcast and they had come, not as an army, but as a promise. As Riven and Lyra stood at the steps of the throne room looking out at the burning city, she asked, "What now?" Riven looked up at the stars. "Now, we find the truth. And if it leads back to Earth," he nodded, "then we bring justice, even if it's home." The screen fades to black, but before the silence, Riven's voice returns. "They thought they ended us. They thought we were done. They were wrong. Humanity doesn't fall. We rise. The rise of humanity. Humanity's chains are broken. The Queen is dead. But the war isn't over, because the deepest wounds are not always caused by enemies. Sometimes the knife comes from home." The ship hummed quietly. It wasn't alien. It wasn't old. It was human. A resistance ship built in the shadows of Earth's fall. Riven sat near the window, staring into the stars. His wounds were wrapped, his armor cracked, but his mind was still sharp. Next to him sat Lyra, the girl he saved, the only witness to what happened beneath Zalora's palace. She looked up at him. "Are we really going back?" "Yes," Riven said. "To Earth?" He nodded once. "To finish this." The surface Earth had changed. The skies were clean again, but the air felt heavier. The cities were rebuilt, but the streets were quieter. Peace had come, but it smelled like lies. Riven walked through the capital wearing a hooded cloak. No soldiers, no welcome, no questions. But he felt the eyes watching him. The Council of Unified Humanity, the same leaders who disappeared the day Earth was invaded, were now in power again. Richer, safer, untouched, and hiding something. Underground whispers that night, Riven met an old contact in a forgotten bunker below the city. "You shouldn't have come back," the man whispered. "Why?" Riven asked. "They know what you found. About the Queen, about the betrayal. If they see you, let them see me." The man sighed. The Council made a deal to save themselves. They gave Earth's coordinates to Zalora, in exchange for their lives. Riven stared at the cracked wall in silence. Did they ever try to fight back? No. They sold us. Then blamed you. The exposure Riven didn't run. He walked into the public communications tower. Inside, guards stopped him. He beat them without killing them. He hacked the main console. Just like before. He sent out one final message, across Earth and to every colony still listening. "This is Commander Riven. You've heard my voice before. You've seen what I've done. But now I bring you the truth. Earth wasn't conquered because we were weak. We were sold. Our own leaders handed us to the aliens to save themselves, and then they erased the truth, hid behind walls. I saw it in the eyes of Queen Jaria, and I saw it in the files buried beneath her palace. This isn't rebellion, this is recovery, this is truth, and it starts now. The people rise. The council ordered his arrest. Too late. By the time soldiers arrived, people were already in the streets, not with weapons, but with words. They chanted his name. They lit fires of memory. They raised banners that read, "We remember Earth." The council tried to shut down the network, but rebels inside the system fought back. One by one, the council members were revealed. Their communications, their escape plans, their hidden deals, and one by one, they were taken down by their own people, not by war, but by truth. The confrontation Riven finally faced the council's last surviving leader, Chancellor Viren, in the echoing hall where Earth's surrender had been signed. Viren stood behind glass, wearing a smile. "I knew you'd come," he said. "You used me," Riven replied. "Used the war. Used our pain." Viren leaned forward. "I made hard choices. You made noise. But in the end, who rebuilt Earth?" Riven didn't argue. He simply said, "You rebuilt walls. I came to tear them down." He placed a small drive on the table. Inside it, every file, every signature, every betrayal, broadcasted to the entire world. Viren's face fell. "You'll destroy everything." "No," Riven said, turning. "I'll rebuild it. Better." The new dawn weeks passed. There was no new king, no queen, no throne. Earth didn't need rulers. It needed reminders. Riven didn't stay in the capital. He didn't want power. He returned to the stars, not as a fugitive, not as a warrior, but as a voice, a guide, a symbol. Beside him was Lyra, older, now stronger. Together, they visited broken colonies, freed hybrid camps, rebuilt bridges between planets. And wherever they went, the people whispered, "We are human. We remember, and we rise." Riven's last message, voiceover style. "To those still hiding, to those still afraid, this is your moment. Not to fight with fists, but to speak with fire. We are not the weak ones. We are the storm they feared. And now we don't need revenge. We need reason. We need unity. We need to remind them humanity never falls. Humanity rises."